I don't hear you right now,
Manaswi,
Gautam. Yep.
okay, I mean, I gave an introduction. You did not hear anything, is it?
No, I didn't hear anything. You might have been muted,
Okay, then.
but I'm glad they
Okay, I'm
heard it.
sorry. Yeah, they got it. Yeah. Cool. I am actually, once again, let's welcome Manaswi for this wonderful event. So, yeah. Uh, and basically, the main thing that we started before was we wanted to start a special interest group in music technology. And some of the music tech community in India, they are focusing on MAR and algorithm based things. And so I always had an interest in getting musical instruments, which Manasvi will also try to emphasize some things around that. So we have a lab, as most of you would have known, HIVE lab. So we also work on music tech in building some new musical instruments for leveraging different musical expressions out of artists and performers, and both digital and acoustic instruments. So now and the recent trends have started like AI and so many other things. And what is this flamboyance, Manasvi, around AI and with music? Let's see how Manasvi is giving his view on his thing about AI for music. And let's it's over to you, Manasvi. So maybe you can have the okay, I think it's transcribing. You can have the session to be little bit talk to be little bit short, and post that we can actually focus on discussions. Yeah, cool. Sounds great. Yeah, now I'm giving to you.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, everybody. I'm so glad to be in a room with you all. Not really, but I am on a screen in front of you. If you can hear me, just say hello. I'll get a sense of like people are all there. Nice. All right, awesome. Okay, so you're able to see my screen right now, and this is what I'm going to talk about. But before I talk about music and AI specifically, I want to introduce a little bit who I am. I think Gautam kind of maybe did that, but um, I just want to say hello, everyone. I'm Manaswi. This is a picture of me when I was a little kid, and it looks exactly like me. And you can see I've got this tape recorder. My parents got me this tape machine pretty early on in life, and I was recording audio all the time, recording my voice, recording different sounds I hear, and and I have all these cassette recordings. So last time when I went home, I was listening back to all these cassette recordings. It was so exciting, and I'm sure you all know now that with AI tools, you can make voice models of people, right? So you can copy people's voices, and that's like a very contentious thing because who gets to copy whose voice, and the ethics of it, the legality of it, how to protect rights if it's your voice. But just for fun, I was like, let me make a voice model of myself as a 4-year-old. And so here is my voice model as a 4-year-old, and I wanted to start with like just saying thank you to all of you in my 4-year-old voice. So let's see if you can hear this.
Thank you for letting me speak at IIT Kanpur.
My parents say that sounds like exactly like me, you know. Uh, to me, it's like a little bit of like a moment in time because it has the qualities of the recording from the microphone when I was recording back in the day. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you and say that I'm currently a PhD student in Opera of the Future. That's the name of my research group at MIT Media Lab. And at MIT, I've been here for 5 years now. For 2 years, I did a master's here as well, and then a PhD. But before doing a master's at MIT, I also was doing research at IIT Bombay. And before that, I was a master's student in Barcelona studying music technology. And before that, a master's student in Stanford studying at the CCRMA, which is a music research group. And before that, an undergrad at IIT Madras. So I've been in grad school all my life, so I relate with all of you all. You know, I like learning with peers, with friends, and generally I love music as well. Can maybe some of you raise your hand on who is a musician? Nobody. It is difficult to say to call yourself a musician. How many of you have played a musical instrument before? That's a lot more people. You're musicians, guys. But I understand it's like a. So I love music. I play a lot of instruments, and I love technology as well. I think many people in this room might be similar to me. I love being creative with technology from a very early age. And I love misusing the technology. I think creativity lies at the edge usually of what is possible or what ideas are possible. And I have I do that with. Live code visuals and live code music. We have a community called Algorave, and so we are trying to make music by writing code. Or on this left, this example, which I love sharing because I think more people should know this simple trick is here is what an image of me when I was younger looks like when you add audio effects to the image. So you open the image in like an audio editing tool, like Audacity. You open the image as a raw file and apply echo and reverb, and this is what happens to the image. That's amazing that you can misuse tools and do interesting things. So I love music, I love technology, and I love community. And I've been doing conferences and trying to get music and technology communities to happen for a few years now. We bring different conferences to India, like ADC and ICASP is something that's happening in Hyderabad in April. So very soon it'll be there in April. And I think this is very exciting that you all are starting a community around music and technology. Thanks to Gautam. Thank you for organizing and getting people together about this topic, because I think music is not something we can just solve. We need many people to be involved and find their own meanings in music. And this is who I am: music, technology, community. I'm trying to bring all these parts of me together. But in this comes the term AI, right? Because Gautam introduced that we're going to talk about AI. And here's how I like really feel about the AI. It's like usually it's like pulling me away from my goals and my creativity. It's either always trying to pop up in every tool, being like, oh, yeah, this will help you. There's AI in my WhatsApp now, there's AI in emails, AI in Docs and Adobe and everything. And on the other end, there's AI trying to train on everything that we create. All media, it seems today, is training data. When I upload pictures on Instagram or write emails, everything is part of a training data. And so I feel a little conflicted working on AI. And so what I wanted to talk about is musical instruments and find my meaning in what I care about through musical instruments. Now, many people raise their hands for like playing musical instruments. Maybe I can like ask some more. Like, how many people played physical instruments like in the real world? Guitar, piano, violin, mridangam, voice. I don't know. So many instruments. I see a few hands. And then how many people play like digital or like instruments in the computer? Maybe do recordings, maybe play some synthesizers. A few more people. That's pretty cool. I love looking at musical instruments as a way to understand technology, materials, design ideas. And we can look at musical instruments from the history, like the first ever musical instruments. that we know of are these bone flutes. It's kind of contentious on if they are musical instruments or what is the goal of an instrument from these hundreds of thousands of years ago. But we do know that we have these bones where we have made holes, we have flutes, we have brass and metal instruments. So with every new technology, woodwork, metalwork, we have made musical instruments out of them. And that trend continues on into the electronic and digital age as well, where with new electronics, we have new instruments. So we have radio instruments and modular synthesizers and touch screens. And now we have all kinds of pressure sensitive musical instruments as well. One of my friends is building a musical instrument that's a piece of cloth, and then you can wrap it up and put it in your bag. And I want you to notice like two things. One is no musical instrument like replaces another one. At least like it seems like it adds another language because it's a new degree of freedom. Music is not like an optimization problem. So a violin is a different instrument than a piano. And maybe they can speak, overlap the languages they speak, but really the idea is not to make a better instrument, but just a different kind of instrument. And the difference sometimes makes it easier to play, more accessible. Sometimes it makes it harder to play, less accessible. And I think in a room full of like design students, maybe you're all thinking about human computer and interaction as well. And one key difference between musical instruments and HCI, like human computer interaction, is in HCI, you're thinking about making things easy, ergonomic. Musical instruments are not the easiest things. You know, for the people that raise their hand, I'm sure it's hard to play a musical instrument. And it's not supposed to be the easiest thing, but it's just sufficiently hard where you can play it. You can then get a sense of getting better at it. You can master it. You can be proud of your efforts, spent time on it. And so it's a unique tool, I think, and a great way to study how technology is shifting because every generation, it seems, needs its own music and its own musical instrument. You'll always hear one generation complain about the previous generation's music and musical instruments. You know, Beethoven, Bach, and then Beatles have famously said, roll over Beethoven, like we don't care about your generation. And now it's completely different. So what do you predict is the next musical instruments? What kind of musical instruments are we going to make with these new ideas that we have in the world around us? AI, large data sets, all of music listening is being recorded right now. You know, kids have everything on Spotify, Apple Music. You can listen to every song at any point in time. And you have all that data, and you have new tech methods for representing that data in new kind of AI models, transformers, diffusions, new progresses. So what kind of musical instruments will come in the future? I was very curious about that. I thought I'll do a PhD on that topic. And so when I, as a PhD student, I was doing literature review and looking at what people have imagined about these AI musics in the past, you know, and a lot of people, composers and synthesizer players, have all imagined this future musical instrument, and they've all imagined the spaceship and rocket and possibilities where you have ideas in your brain and you just manifest them. On the left here is Herbie Hancock and like an album cover of his where he's riding a plane full of possibilities. Xenakis, who's another composer in the post-World War times who used very weird composition techniques, also imagined this kind of becoming a pilot and realizing your dreams. But actually, if any of you all are using these AI tools to be creative, they look much more like this. Like they're this box, and you make a request to the box, and it makes the music for you. So it looks like, give me a rock song, and can you make me music in the style of an artist? And to me, that's like a big reduction, right? Like we imagined going into all of these degrees of freedom, but now we have this thing that we can request music from. That is very, very like underwhelming. So it tells me that we haven't yet started building these musical instruments. We have just like scratched the surface of making a copying machine. And I really like this quote, which is at the bottom. I don't know if you all can see it, but I'll read it out. It says, writing about music is like dancing about architecture. I, I don't know what that means. Perhaps that's the point, that you can't really write music. Maybe, okay, we can do this experiment. Right now, everybody like imagine in your head a song when I type the prompt, happy song. Imagine it. Do you have like a happy song in your head? I can't really see your smiling faces, but usually when you're thinking of happy songs, you should be happy. And I can like take a guess that this happy song in your head is different for everybody, right? Or maybe close enough amongst friends, but it's not like one happy song for everyone. So it's difficult for me to imagine coming up with music or thinking about music with language prompts. It can only ever generate statistically likely. This song is probably a happy song for an Indian uh, in 2025. That does not seem very exciting to me. Usually, when I think of musical ideas, they are like, like they're in audio terms. They're not necessarily just like I want a happy song. Um, so in my literature review, I was looking at different kinds of computer generated art. And I found like some of the early computer art exhibitions that happened in the 60s, they often were so optimistic. They were describing that computers and generative tools will accelerate our abilities to produce deviations from the norm. Max Benzer writes in the program notes in the manifesto of the first ever computer art exhibition. So they were imagining that using computers, we can make all kinds of deviations and not just the statistically average. But usually this is what has happened right now. If you all are seeing AI art in your newspapers and WhatsApp groups and everything, it's all looking the same. It's all kind of like uh, trending towards the statistical averages. And I can see why, because we're all pulling from the same probability distributions. We're all using like stable diffusion or I don't know. How many of you all have used AI to make images? That's quite a lot of people. Do you all use AI in like writing text for Claude and ChatGPT? Some, maybe people don't want to raise their hands. Some raise their hands. Okay. Um, you can tell like if you want to do something creative, it's not so obvious. How many of you have used AI to make music? I don't think we have asked that. Some people have. That's really cool. Sorry. Can you say that again?
So actually, we have a guy here who has started a YouTube channel. His name is Jaya. He's also in the music. He uses Suno to yeah. Right now he's gone for some other meeting, but he'll come back.
But he's using Suno to make music, right? So some of y'all are already familiar with Suno as a tool to make music. It is empowering, right? Like you can just write a prompt, write lyrics, and get music. Maybe you can tune it a little bit. Let me see. Anybody else used anything other than Suno? I'm just curious. Anybody in the room? Maybe not really.
Magenta?
Magenta, yes. Google had a bunch of tools for generating notes. Yeah, given some previous notes, it can generate new notes. That is really cool. I really like Suno as well. You know, when I got access to Suno, I made a bunch of installations with Suno, and I want to show you like one example. It's such a cheat using Suno because you can just make music like every minute. And so here is an example of how I've used Suno. And I made this installation where one can come and hum a melody. So you can hum a melody, and I'm not going to sing right now, but I'll just play this and maybe you can hear this. This is a melody that I sang. Okay, that's my melody. And then now I have the same thing generated in 50 different genres. Dang, that was pretty crazy. it thinks Punjabi music is but instantly you can have like hundreds of songs. I think it is pretty crazy that we are in this world. Um, and what was most interesting to me is to create installations where people can come together and experience the Suno magic on their own. Because I feel like some of that magic of the value of that, oh, I made a really good song, is in being able to share it. And I'm not exactly sure how things will look like as Suno music fills up Spotify or fills up like YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's both like exciting for somebody who has never made music and at the same time frustrating for a listener to always be hearing Suno generated music. I'm not sure. I'm kind of debating these ideas myself. But this is not the first time we've had this kind of like crazy um, AI has made a machine that can copy us before. You know, the recording technologies, one such crazy. I mean, I don't know if you have thought about like 100 years ago, there was no recording. So the only way to hear music was somebody had to play it or perform it or sing it like in front of you. And only in the last 100 years do we have like this recording. And I looked at newspaper articles from when the graphophone and the early recording things were made, and they keep describing it as the talking machine, very similar to like the language used for AI today. And if I look at like today's language, you have AI is copying artists, and this is great, and this is and Drake has made AI generated diss track, and people have made AI generated rap tracks copying people, and it's both like a chaos and a magic trick, and in the same at the same time, and and human music. And it's all trying to make this kind of human music, right? And so I want to ask, I mean, I wanted to ask this, but or like, why do humans make music? And I think we have many reasons of understanding this anthropologically or like through very particular lenses of why humans make music. Of course, I asked my best friends ChatGPT and Claude, and they have really good like nuanced answers too about why we make music: social bonding, creativity, cultural, communal, healing, entertainment, all kinds of things. And to me, like, it seems I can think about like AI music in these two buckets, which is there is like the object of music and tools that can make this object. And so transactionally, I can request a lot of these object. I can customize this object. I can sell it. I can own it. I can value it. And then on the other hand is all of these values of why we make music, which is performing and playing and improvising and learning and sharing and I think musical instruments kind of lie in this second bucket. And the Suno tool does not feel like an instrument to me. It is making music, but it does not feel like a musical instrument. Anyway, these were like main ideas of mine. And with that, I want to show you like 4 or 5 examples of work that I do where I build these musical instruments. So I build this instrument and take it to a stage or work with musicians of different kinds. And I want to show you what crazy things are possible when you think about AI music as opening up possibilities. So the first example I want to share with you all is this opera called Valis that I worked on in 2023. And it's an opera, which is a Western idea of stage play, but it had the reason we're excited about opera is because there are musicians on stage, actors, lyricists, people are singing, there's technology, lights, all kinds of things happening. And here in particular, there is a moment where we have this AI instrument. So right now you must be seeing on your screen something that is hard to tell what's going on, but I'll point to you that there's this person standing in the middle, and she is a friend of mine, and she's holding this object in her hand. And soon she's going to start moving this object. And this object has a sensor inside it, an IMU sensor, if you all know what that is. So it can detect like tilt and movement and position in space. So it gives us like 9 dimensions. So 3 dimensions of position in space, 3 dimensions of tilting, and 3 dimensions of acceleration. And she's going to move this in space. And as she moves this in space, we are going to be generating music from an AI model, but with the movement. So it's kind of like moving around in the latent space of the AI. If you're not familiar a little bit with the AI, but basically what AI does is it takes whatever text prompts you say and it encodes it in an embedding space. So it's like a high dimensional mathematical space. And what we are doing with this movement is moving around like in that high dimensional mathematical space directly. So let's listen to what that is. The sounds you're going to hear are all going to be weird, crazy sounds, but they're all being generated in real time. This was for a science fiction opera. So the sounds are also very science fiction-y. Okay, you can hear it. She's moving this around. It's generating these sounds. So we are using movement to generate from an AI space. Just going to mention that. Um, if you have more questions, please reach out and I can discuss even more. And here's another one. Here's another example. In Seoul, towards the end of last year, we did a performance with this chamber orchestra. So these are people on stage over here are violin, cello. They're the most incredible musicians, the best in the world. They are like head of the different philharmonics in the world, Berlin, New York. And what they're doing is they're playing this piece called Flow Symphony, and it's all about water. So what we did was we went to a river and collected an hour of recording from the river and then made an AI model that's just trained on these river sounds. So it does not know anything about rock music and Indian music. It only knows about river sounds. And then we let these musicians improvise where whatever they're playing gets translated through this river model. So they're immediately able to hear a river and they're able to change the river by changing the way they play. I'm going to play like a clip from it so you all can hear it as well. This is not online yet, so this is like a sneak peek for just for you. Uh, Everybody's going to play in the beginning, and then soon one person's going to play at a time and try to listen for the water sounds that they are controlling live. Yeah, I'm just going to pause it there. Could you maybe hear? I don't know how the audio is there, but maybe you could hear some of the water splash sound. They're all generated live, and so even the musicians don't know what kind of sounds might come out. And look, he looks so happy because he like made made some of those splash happen. And improvisation does have these moments of like trust where you have to trust the other person when you're improvising and jamming. And it's interesting to think about what does it mean to trust a machine or an AI model to respond in the way that you want it to. Um, so that's another example where we go from audio to audio, but musicians use their expert techniques to make the audio to generate these river sounds. Okay. Now, in each of these examples, we were controlling the music at the minutest level. So you can think of music as the entire song. So you can write something and get the entire song generated, or you can get just a phrase generated. And the opposite would be you were generating at every note, at every instant of time. So you're generating every instance. Both of these examples I showed you, we were generating every instance. In one of them through movement, in one of them through audio. I'm going to show you something else where it's generating at like a longer scale, not just at every instance, but a longer scale. And here's one thing we did with my friend who builds these textiles, Irmandi. Um, and he builds these textiles that have conductive thread in them. And so the textile itself can then become like an antenna. And you see this big giant tent-like structure. We built this where every arm of this tent is like an antenna because the gray thread that's in here is like a conductive thread. And so when somebody walks underneath it, it detects like that there is like a drop in the capacity. Like it detects when there's somebody walking underneath it. So we can build a density map of how people are moving in this tent. And we used the movement of people to control the music that happens in the space. Now, this is like a musical instrument, I guess, but at an architectural scale where we got like dancers to dance inside it and control the music. But it was much more special when there were large groups of people and they would discover that the music is changing when we are holding hands, or when we are moving in circles, or when we are like staying completely still. This was shown at the Burning Man last year. And people did like yoga and dance parties, and the music would respond to their movement, which was really cool. Okay, and then the next example I want to show you all is of where AI can generate like large sections of music and not just the instances of music. So we just did this thing at the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, where they gave us access to their archives. And again, this is interesting about AI is your choice of the data set that you train your AI on is another creative opportunity. So you can choose what inputs you give to the model, and in this case, we had just the Dallas Symphony Orchestra archives, and we allowed children to come in. And in this museum that is going to open in a few months in Dallas, people can come in and turn these knobs. And as they turn the knobs, they can hear different examples from the archive. They can mix those sounds together to get AI generated spaces in the middle. And I think this is a very exciting possibility of how we can think of museums and archives and data centers as like spaces to interact with and to learn from, um, in more ways than just like chat gpt is trained on all of knowledge. But if you had something that was trained on just one phd document, or one song or one opera, and you could design music lessons from just that one artist or one composer's music, that would be amazing. I would get my favorite artist and be like, can you make guitar lessons in the style of my favorite artist? Right? That's a powerful future that I see for pedagogy and learning. And then my last example that I want to show you all is Indian music. I'm very interested in making Indian music and improvising with Indian music. And we have been doing that for a while now, using all of the techniques that you just saw. And I'll play like one example. Maybe you all have seen how you can generate AI images. And what happens with AI images is this process called diffusion models that start from an image of noise and then slowly remove noise to get to an image of whatever you ask it for. So if you say, I want a man flying in the sky, you can get a picture of a man flying in the sky. So I did something similar, but rather than for images, do it for spectrograms, which is an image of the sound, right? So you can hear the sound, but you can look at a picture of what frequencies are in the sound. And I'm trying to do diffusion in that image space. So here's an example of me beatboxing. Just playing it. It should start in a second. I'm very interested in this like Chenda style beat. And then I'm using this diffusion to generate new music that takes the sound that I just made and creates this new spectrogram from it. This is so exciting for me that I can like go from beatbox to be a band or to be a mridangam or something else. And we're trying to do live performances with it too. I will just show you like a snippet of it. Here is like an example of my friend who's a sitar player. He's a seventh generation sitar player, comes from a family of sitar players. And now he's playing the sitar, and I'm recording it live and then converting the audio that I record from his sitar, as well as improvising with my beatbox machine, where I can make sounds and convert my sounds into other instruments as well. So it's a little hard to hear in this example, but maybe just because I'm playing it, I want to share that he's playing something. And in this moment, you'll hear like a saxophone trying to repeat what he's playing. Slightly hard to tell in this recording, but we do rhythm jams and beatboxing and many more things. So, okay, I'll leave it at that. Here's my like recap and summary from these different kinds of musical instruments that I'm designing. Is often like smart AI instruments are themselves not very smart. They're pretty stupid, actually. And leveraging the expert technique that people are already building on is a smart idea. So like depending on how people already have amazing skills on their fingertips because they play an instrument, or because they have great aesthetic choices, I think that's smarter, at least, to build in this kind of musical instrument world. And then making mistakes is the most exciting part about creativity, Brian. And there are several quotes you will find in the world of music where a musical instrument's signature became what it was bad at. The vinyl has this crackling sound. Oh, we love it. Or the blues singer is singing just beyond what their vocal cords can sing, and the electric guitar is like being pushed to the max and is distorting. Those become the signature of things. So we do want to make mistakes with our tools to discover where the edges of creativity are, because we want to find our own creativity. We just don't want to listen to the average version of a happy song or a rock song. At least that's not what creation is. Maybe it's a kind of listening. And so I think the values are shifting in this like low effort where anybody can synthesize. If music is democratized, if Spotify, I'm sure is soon. I think this year there was a leak that Spotify is about to come up with like a AI pro tier, and they already have like AI DJ and AI playlists where AI will make the playlist for you. But there's so much music that is being uploaded to Spotify that is AI generated, and soon there will be like buttons that allow you to make your own personalized AI songs. And to me, like this solipsistic where all of the media you consume is personalized to you, seems like a great idea for an engineer or an economist. But pop music is only popular because you're able to share that song with other people, right? And if everybody makes their own song, like what are they sharing? We need more of like finding the value in these shared spaces. Anyway, these are some of like my takeaways about from designing these musical instruments. And I think the main idea is just trust. Like you want to build trust between your users. If you're a tool builder, you want people to trust the ideas that comes from. As an artist, you want your audience to trust how you made this process, the process. And I'm seeking that as well. And I think that like to end it, and we can do like questions and discussion now. I want to play like this small clip from a 1984 documentary of Quincy Jones. Rest in peace. He was a legend in jazz music, and Herbie Hancock, and they're kind of talking about automation and music. And I want to play this clip.
Right. It's interesting because these instruments were designed for people to use, Right. It's just a tool, another tool. The way an axe is a tool, an axe can be a tool to cut wood to build a house, or it can be a tool to slaughter your neighbor. The same thing, a synthesizer can be a tool to really hurt people's ears or interfere with their lives, or it can be a tool to make a really nice sounding instrument that can really affect people in a positive way. And it all depends on the person that's using them. People blame machines very often for the machine's fault. How can it be the machine's fault? We have to plug it in. The machine doesn't do anything but sit there until we plug it in. It doesn't plug itself in. It doesn't program itself yet.
It's on the way, though.
It's on the way. you know.
They knew it was on the way. Okay, I just want to end it there. Thank you so much for letting me speak. And I would be happy to take any questions and discuss these ideas even further through your thoughts and reflections.
It's give a round. Yeah. Thank you, Manaswi. Yeah, now the time is open for questions or any discussions or any criticisms that Manaswi would love to take. Anything that
Yeah. So being a musician, right? Okay. So being a musician since your childhood, in music, I think listening thing creates more impact. So my question is, if we are designing like Suno app and all those music we are creating, and another music that are classics that are for good for learning when you're learning music, do you think the music nowadays that are coming like in Instagram reels or Suno app that is creating will impact the musicians or impact the music learning process?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask, because that allows you to think further on how that technology will impact you're kind of defining them as two different worlds, right? Like there is the world where we are listening and consuming, and then there's the world where you're a music student and you're going to music school and learning from your syllabus. And I think a little bit like these two worlds, for somebody who's growing up in this world, it's not like separate buckets, right? Like I remember when I was growing up and wanted to play guitar, I was listening to the songs I love and then trying to find how to play it. And sometimes if I go to music school, they were still teaching old textbooks and ideas from the past. So I would rather go on YouTube, right? I would go on YouTube and say, hey, I want to learn how to play this guitar for this new metal song, and nobody around me is teaching me this. So I think kids that grow up with like TikTok music or Suno music might also be like, I want to learn how to do that. And they might go to Suno to do that, right? Or they might want little more control to do that. So they might go to some other tools that are going to come up now that will be slightly better version of Suno. Maybe Suno, UDO, Refusion. If you have seen them in the last few months, they've added more edit buttons in there, right? They kind of started from making the entire cake for you to now being like, hey, people actually don't want to just eat cake. They want to learn how to bake. And so they're trying to be like, if you're a person who wants to like customize your cake, here's how you can customize it. And they're kind of taking steps backwards to get to music learning. I think children growing up are totally affected by the technologies around them. And um, if many, like a lot of the music today is actually not made on real instruments, right? A lot of the pop music that we hear is being made on computers. And the way people share knowledge about how to make that is they make YouTube videos, they make lessons, they make syllabus. The new music schools are actually adding lessons for how to make music using these interfaces and MIDI keyboards and things like that. At Berklee College of Music, they have new master's programs that are all about how to use the technologies of today to make music. I can see a future where these AI musical tools, like people start making YouTube videos where there was somebody in the room, right, who makes YouTube videos on how to use AI to make music. I think there will be even more of like a pedagogical way of looking at it, where you make a whole syllabus and teach somebody to make the music that they listen to. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the right line of thinking, is like which tool to build.
Want to follow? You want to follow?
So you were talking about a 9D instrument. Can you again tell the dimensions you used for that? I mean, those
Nine
dimension
dimensions
you.
of the instrument. Yes, okay, that's a very
Yeah,
particular question.
exactly.
So the 9 dimensions. So what we used there was a IMU sensor, which is an inertial sensor, IMU, and the 9 dimensions in an IMU sensor that it gives access to is 3 dimensions of position, so X, Y, Z. It's what you have in many of your phones. So you have 3 dimensions of this, three dimensions
Yeah,
of like tilt,
yeah,
row, and then 3 dimensions of
yeah.
acceleration of like how fast you move it. So when she was moving that
Okay.
object in space, there were like 9 dimensions where
Yeah.
she could move in. But they're not like 9 independent dimensions, but she was kind of like repeating a certain gesture, by movement. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but happy to answer any more like particular questions about that project. Feel free to like reach out on my email.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Can be louder for
Yeah.
the audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the very nice talk and introduction to this field. So I have two maybe short related questions. Is basically, I mean, is there any interest in trying to use these AI tools to also sort of design completely inconceivable analog instruments? And related to that, I mean, if you can track the evolution of the instruments that you're designing, because at the end of the day, maybe it's still a black box at some point, this AI. So do you see any parallels to how analog instruments evolve compared to how these tools evolve?
Yes, that.
I don't know.
Sorry, is there more? I think somebody was still
No,
speaking.
that's all. Sorry. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was all.
yeah. No, I really love this question because analog instruments really allow you to make mistakes faster because it does not have like, I mean, you can play the guitar in many different ways. You can take the signal and put any signal into there. So I think that is the future. Many of these AI instruments have begun as Suno. They're on the website, but actually there are AI instruments being built at every stage of the music making process. So when you make music, you might start from an instrument or start from a sample and then start creating more variations and using effects. And so there are AIs for like making plugins. There are AIs for generating the symbols right at the beginning, then AIs for translating or causing effects to that. There are plugin versions of these AI models. And then at the end is this big black box, like you said, right? Most of the examples I showed would stay in the black box, whether big or small. And I think my goal, exactly like yours, is to make them to make ways in which you can reach into it and actually play with every number. What some of this black box is allowing us to do, though, is interact at like semantic levels, where so the most analog instruments are where they allow you like a rocket ship control, right? Like every single thing can be controlled and you can give any input over there, uh, which is like drawing the waveform. That's really hard. So you want some abstraction level that's not complete, like analog of every single number. So like ChatGPT is 70 billion parameters. You don't want to be tweaking 70 billion numbers, but something in the middle. And so people in our research group are trying to build like synthesizers that have maybe 100 parameters or 200 parameters, something in the middle that lets you control just 50 numbers, 10 numbers, and then get and tune them in a way like if I change this number, I want it to do something like these audio examples. I think those are the AI instruments that people will be building. Already, instrument designers like Korg and Roland and Akai, all of them have been interested in trying to build what an AI version of the instrument. And I think that's very exciting future to look forward to. I build like that as well.
Um, Very interesting talk again. Other than diffusion models, what are the other deep generative models that you use in this area, basically? Like energy models, flow models, or diffusion models you already are using, right? Or any other flow model or any other model that you use in this area, actually? That's what my
Yes,
question.
actually, totally. In fact, any kind of model can be used to do music things as well, because at the end you have to train it on a data set of audio or music instead. So if it works on images, it can work on audio. And so what the examples that we use diffusion models, but actually we've been using a lot of flow and distillation flow kind of models that are like subsets of diffusion to do it faster, because we wanted to do live performance and improvisation. So we want to use the flow techniques to make our samples generate faster. Also transformers. So all of the Suno that we're talking about are diffusion transformers. So they are generating sequences as a transformer and making diffusions. So you get from every states, you get like high quality audio being generated. So we have a bunch of like diffusion transformers. They're a little slower, but you can use a bunch of transformer architecture. Somebody in the beginning mentioned Magenta. So Google had a team called Magenta, and they would build a lot of like very simple machine learning models too, just like from Markov chains to very small transformers to
Okay.
everything in the middle. For generating music, not as audio, but as like symbols. So can you generate music as sarega, regama, gamapa, where you have looked at a bunch of annotations and then predict what should be a sequence. Given this sequence, can I continue that sequence?
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
I think you guys can also.
Oh, okay. Hi, Manaswi. This is Rajarshi, and thanks so much for sharing your experience and your research. And just wanted to ask a small thing, that is that in any form of creative practice, I think, I mean, I cannot really speak much about music, but I mean, I can speak from the field of fine arts or visual arts. So the thing is that, I mean, in any form of creative expression, or like whenever we're making something, I think, I mean, we make ample amount of room for sort of accommodating our frustrations, challenges, difficulties, and everything. And I was kind of thinking that, I mean, where you are situating these things in the entire process. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I connect with it, of course, as a creative person, which I think everybody is, whether they have done anything with sound or not. You do deal with these making mistakes and frustrations and serendipity, and then what ends up happening is you end up building like a skill of how to react to the mistakes, right? And that's what, with experience or with knowledge, you know how to act on, like when there is a certain mistake or when you want to combine ideas together. People end up building their own strategies, but some instruments do a better job of it than others. If you're doing fine arts, maybe you have like, if you are sculpting, I'm sure maybe there are like techniques that you have that when you make a mistake, when you make a palette of it, you keep a certain idea separately, you take pictures, you document. Uh, in Adobe tools, maybe there are ways of labeling things that you have discovered, saving them. I think a bunch of the AI tools, AI musical instruments do not allow for directing that serendipity right from the start, because they're not meant to be creative tools for creatives. They're often meant to be like, hey, you don't know how to make music? AI is there. AI got you. Like AI is going to do it for you. Is the first approach, because the first approach is coming from like a bunch of investors and they want to democratize. And in order to make value at scale, you can't get the poor creative to pay money. You want to sell a dream to the average person to pay a subscription fee. So it's very chaotic on what kinds of tools people are building. But your intuition is absolutely right. We make mistakes, and my perspective in this talk and with my research is from the perspective of somebody who designs the tools. If you design the tool, you want to allow for mistakes and allow like people to explore those mistakes and save them and revisit them. As a creator, of course, we'll find new ways of making mistakes in whatever tool is given to us, I think.
Hi, Manaswi. Hello, I'm audible.
Hello, I can hear you. Yes.
Hi. I'm Rashmi. I'm a master student in design. So you mentioned how a use of AI for generating music or creating music is like democratizing the process of music creation. You hinted at that towards the end of the talk. So I wanted to ask, how is it democratization when AI models itself are built on very like contrary and opposing sort of process and practice?
Yes, how is it?
I mean,
I totally. I think democracy is a broken idea. I think we can argue about. I think where is the democratized part? I think your question is kind of like when the models are being trained, they uh, are agnostically pulling data like from everywhere. That's kind of what you're saying?
I wouldn't say they're agnostically pulling, the sort of stealing, right? So that is also my question.
Okay.
It's sort of the creators lose. I mean, sort of us. The data is unjustly taken from them for these AI models to evolve. And then
Right.
we are assuming that future creators will benefit out of this. And what about the creators who were sort of done wrong by the training system, at least the process that we have right now?
Yes. That's really important question. Actually, I did not go too much into that because we were talking more about just the design aspect of it. But I'm so glad. Thank you for bringing that question, because it is actually. So I have participated in a lot of copyright office discussions where the copyright office is trying to make rules and regulations of where does the value of the idea lie and how to protect artists. And the US Copyright Office put out a bunch of guidelines last year about what is allowed in AI music, how to register your copyright and things like that. But it is very tilted in music. You might have seen authors and writers went on strike, unions, Writers Guild in America, and they got the contracts to change, right? They made sure the contracts do not by default steal their performances and faces and voices, and they have to like build it into the contract and get paid for it. So they were able to do that. Artists much more broken, right? There's all these lawsuits going on where they're trying to join together to be like, wait, you cannot just train these AI models on us and then sell it back to us. And music is even more broken. So I want to point out, like in music, it's going to happen regardless, because Universal Music, Warner Music, in India, it's T Series, Saregama. These are the people that own all of the music. So they will be making AI models on the music they have already collected. And I think that's a bad idea. I think this whole idea of AI music we is changing where the value occurs, and I kind of just hinted on it, like how that value shifts. But we need like artists and people that hold labels and stuff to all be at the table to figure out what those contracts of future knowledge systems might look like. Already, I think regardless of AI, musicians have the worst of it because they don't make any money using music. Most of my musician friends make money only by selling T-shirts or like going on tour, but even that doesn't make money. So already in the world of Spotify streaming, it was broken, and now the AI just accelerates a lot of that process. So I think you're absolutely right, and I would recommend like the work of Holly Herndon or Matt Dryhurst with public diffusion, what they have been doing. If you look up like what's the best way to find them? Spawning, I think is the best way to find them. Spawning, Spawning. And with Spawning, what they're trying to do is make new standards for where the watermark of an artist can live inside the consent forms, can live in the art piece itself. Where AI models cannot see your art if you can apply like a watermark on it. So many interesting like neo-Luddite techniques of how to protect your work if you are putting work out there. This is a very long discussion though. Yes.
Just one more question. This is
Please, yeah.
something you have hinted on and discussed earlier, but I was thinking of I'm not a musician. I don't play any instruments, but I do draw. I do sketch, and there is a sort of relationship you form with your tools. And when it comes to music, I do follow a lot of musicians, and even when they're playing the same composition, I can sort of feel their signature because they have this direct connection with their instrument in that case, or their when it comes to AI, there are just too many barriers that I see for a musician to have like any sort of connection or relationship, a tactile relationship with their instrument. So how will a musician's signature be present if AI will overtake creation in the future?
That's a really good question. I don't think AI will overtake in the future. They will try to. Like, I think if the spaces are flooded with just AI generated tools, people will find recourse somewhere else because in the beginning, I was trying to say, like, look, here are the values that we get from music. And I don't think the goal is to democratize the object of music, but democratize like these values, like performing and learning, improvising, playing with each other, finding your own sound and signature. Um, and I think they will realize, like people will realize that eventually. But to your point is like, I think already the big barrier for a musician is how do I engage with AI, right? Like how do I do AI? I didn't go to computer science school. Do I need to take a deep learning course in IIT to do AI? I mean, that's the big barrier, right? And what happens next is you look for the tools available. The most popular one is Suno. That's not an instrument tool. That just makes the music for you. Like so, I cannot find my signature in that, even though they try to edit and allow that. So then you find that those instruments are not yet here, but they're coming out. They're experimental plugins. So plugins like Newtone or data mined and audio. These companies are trying to make AI models that are not trained on all of music, but just available to a musician to train on their data set. So as a musician, I can be like, look, I have 2 hours of drum loops and chops and samples I've collected. A plugin company gives me the tool without having to learn coding or anything. Now I can run it on my data set. And now I have like a signature AI model that's only mine. Of course, I can sell it, but I can then try to use it to make sounds and samples that would be very related to my ideas. Data mined audio is one company that does that. So I think we're at the beginning of such instruments being built, but more power to such instruments.
But that is under the assumption that the AI model and the human are unbiased, but both of them are extremely biased individuals. So even if the information that goes into it in the form of snares and drums and all of that is the same, the output will be completely different. And to train a model in the human experience, I don't know. I just a point I would like your opinion on.
Sure. I think the human experience is like an obvious one, it's like the AI tool might be built without the idea of how a human might use it. Bye-bye, people that are leaving. I think it's like when you think of like designing the tool, you think of them as separate experiences that the tool allows you to do such and such, and then the musician is expected to do such and such. But But once it's unleashed, like once the musician has it, they end up taking time with it. For example, that river model that I showed you can only make water sounds. It can never make any other sound. So this bias is being used in the creative's favor, where we have biased it to only make water sounds, but now we can use it in a way where we know we have control over the output. But then we can try to find like creatively where it makes sense to use this filter or this brush. And that's very true of like the voice models. It's very obvious to understand. Like my 4-year-old voice will always be my 4-year-old voice. You know, I'm trying to write a song in my 4-year-old voice. And it's making me think of all these creative decisions on what words do I want my 4-year-old voice to say. That changes everything. Do I talk about love? No. Do I talk about war or elections? It's crazy. And so as musicians have lived experiences with the tools that they can actually build connections to, you nailed it kind of with that idea. Then they will end up finding where their signatures lie. I think those instruments haven't, only the beginning of those instruments have happened. I would like to see like many of you all work on instruments like that. I mean, in your design practices, perhaps you are going to use AI. So do think about these ideas when you build with AI.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Arunav. I'm also a master student doing design. So my question was that we've also been experimenting with like new modalities when it comes to synthesizing music. Even though I'm not a musician, when I have, how do you ensure the musicality of whatever you're using to, produce the sounds? Like if I have a thought in my head, like, okay, I want to generate music using the flight of the birds or the motion of the beats or some sort of visual cue that I'm taking. In most cases, either I end up with, a haphazard sort of a sound, which is like ting, 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 or I have to use so many filters and lags and stuff to make it musical, by which point I've lost the original, uh, whatever data stream I was using, and it's mostly just whatever filters I've used. So how do you ensure that when
Wow, I
making
think
an
that's a
instrument?
very profound question. I think uh, because this kind of like taking inspiration from somewhere and filtering it through you and your tools, and then creating your art form is so dependent on different people and different composers and different aesthetics. And I think like you could look at the birds and compose on the piano as well. There are actually some really nice compositions of um, yeah, I'm forgetting. Maybe Riley and Xenakis had a bunch of things that were density maps. Um, I think what you're asking is like, how do we honestly do that with AI tools, or like where these abstractions get lost? I'm not sure. I think we'll discover our own answers. Yeah, I don't think I have like a good answer. That's a great question though, because like you might do it differently on a piano versus on a synthesizer or on code if you get inspired by something. Yeah.
Okay. Could you
Please reach
mention
out. I
what the
think I think if
name
you
Yeah, I think yeah.
sorry, I will let you repeat your question. But if you have a specific project in mind, I have 100 ideas of how I would take the birds and make them music. Sorry, your question.
No, I just was asking the name of the artist that you mentioned, like you-
For the piano composition by watching birds. What's the name of the
Yes. Let
artist?
me. I'll. Are you on that WhatsApp group? I can send like a link on the WhatsApp
Yeah,
group.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's there. He's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool, cool. Yeah, anyone is left on that. Manaswi, if you're not getting late, how many questions can we take?
I'm okay. I can do some more. I'll let you
Okay,
know
cool.
maybe if people are in the room.
Hi Manaswi, this is Arjit. I am a PhD student in neuroscience. I have a question about this reproducibility of these algorithms. So let's say if you give same prompt to ChatGPT, it comes out with different answers. It is never exactly the same. But in music, reproducibility is important when you are performing live. So how reproducible is this algorithm that you are using?
That is a very good question. I reproducibility is very important, both in the terms of like live performance, but also for annotating, for creating a score version of your piece, for letting other people play your piece, for registering the copyright of your piece. So reproducibility is super important. The different models allow different levels of reproducibility. So some are more deterministic than others. So for example, the stable diffusion things, if you ever like try to generate an image with AI, if you try to do it inside ChatGPT, it might be different every time. But if you use like a Stable Diffusion or Midjourney or something, you can like fix the seeds or like the dice rolls of any non-deterministic step, so that every time a probabilistic decision has to be taken, it's always the same decision that gets taken, and so you can generate the exact same image any number of times with the exact same prompt and the seed. And so for some of the techniques we do in the score, we will actually say, use this model, use this seed, use this exact prompt was what was used. Well, you're right. Some of the other models like ChatGPT, they don't give you access to, or sometimes they're just completely non-deterministic. So you roll it, like you start the process, and then there are some steps in the middle that you can't control, and that does happen. And when something like that happens, you can, in the score or in like where you want reproducibility, you will limit the things by saying we used this particular version of the model, we used this particular prompt, so that at least people have an idea of like where the sampling was done from. I think there will be better ideas of how to reproduce, because people want to be able to reproduce for many reasons, for copyright reasons. So new kinds of LoRa's or RAG architectures might pop up that will be like, if I use this vector, that means I used this particular reproducible style. It's not really answering your question. I think different models have different abilities to reproduce.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, ask question. Okay. Maybe I will also ask one question. So Manaswi,
Yes, Gautam.
actually, yeah, I wanted to ask something on the line of creating a music instrument. So first of all, I want to make a comparison between the way in which we create music using apps like Suno, where the prompts are in textual form, just texts. And when as a music producer, when I actually sit in a DAW with a MIDI controller with keys and this one, when I try to compose a piece, there are so many things that actually happen that gives me a real-time feedback of, each and every action that I actually do. It can be either using my fingers, I actually strike the keys, and then somewhere it actually pulls the flow state. And secondly, even with the DAW, the interaction I have, maybe the choice of a snare that I want to actually pick. I have a list of snares, and then I just go like a tit 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 tit, and then I have a real-time feedback of how each snare actually sounds. That actually influences my composition. And still, I'm in the first small phrase of composition. I don't have an entire picture of how the final outcome is going to be. So it's like I'm crafting stage by stage. I keep on crafting, and then the composition goes, and then finally it takes a shape. But in terms of a Suno or anything, you give a prompt, though you try to craft most of the things, let's say some emotions or other things, but let's say there are a lot of process that I'm actually it's going in me that I cannot even express. Let's say I feel something, and then can I actually express using word or some verbal or a text? It's pretty difficult. But despite that, I try to come up with some synonyms and words and try to describe. But the moment I describe and then hit a button, I get the entire generated output, and it's like outcome is there. And then it's not, I don't have a real time feedback of in each and every crafting stage. So how do you actually see this, and how this, if I want to actually make use of that, leverage that, what kind of modalities or what kind of things that I can actually think of in the new AI music creation method, technique, or even tool and instrument?
That is such a great way of dividing the problem into like steps of abstraction, which is usually what creativity is. It's not like a one step. I mean, maybe it could be sometimes, but so I would answer that in like two ways. One is, of course, if you had the resources to build your own Suno, you would do it differently, right? Because you would think about the not that your audience is not somebody who wants the entire song in 30 seconds. So you're not building that tool, but Suno is building that tool. So okay, what can we do if we cannot build a Suno because we don't have access to data and the kind of GPUs that Suno has? What can we do without that? I will start from like two ends. One end is let's leverage that something like Suno exists. So it is a crazy artifact of 2025, right? Like that somebody has trained all this on music. A lot of Indian music is in there. I mean, crazy stuff, by the way. In Suno, I was able to generate Indian music that starts off with Sare Gama Karava. That's crazy. You know what that means? That means they're trained on all of this music that's on anyway. So now this artifact exists in our world. If you want to train, if you want to build and figure out what these models of the future might look like, one thing on one extreme could be we take that model and we put some other ways of entering into that model that we work on or we build on. For example, there was this class at the Media Lab. There was what was it called? I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was something like tangible interfaces for language models. And so the class was all about, this is a great workshop or idea for any students here as well, is take a language model like ChatGPT, but don't just interact with it in text. What if you put it with knobs on the outside or under a chair? Or it's not just about agent that you can talk to your fridge and your chair and your computer, but what if it's like a knob or a fader or something else, or a tangible way of thinking about how you can then convert it into prompts and then get something out of it. So one example that I've been thinking about is in stable diffusion or these Suno kind of examples where all you can do is write text prompts. What if I detangle the text prompt into share ideas about instrument sound, share ideas about the styles and things that you want, share ideas like these as 3 or 4 different components that a creator can type in, and then combine those all. So in that way, you're still evaluating the prompt, but now you've kind of detangled it to evaluate something beyond just what the model can do to like how did a person think of when they were given like these 3 different prompts or 4 different faders or something. That's one approach, which is you're leveraging this artifact that already exists. The other approach is really like take an example workflow for a creative person. And this is how actually a lot of the evaluations are done for AI music conferences. So there is like a AI music conference and also a AI song contest, which would be great to actually see like so many participants from IIT Kanpur Music Club in AI song contest next year. Because I think there's probably been like one example of music from India. It doesn't have to be Indian music. I just mean like us making music. But in something like that, what they do is for evaluating it, they will take like a fixed workflow where it's like generate samples, then recompose with samples, then reflect on the recomposition and do something different. So you have to fix a workflow and get a lot of creative people to come and evaluate it at these different stages. So you're not just evaluating. I mean, the problem with trying to get 10 musicians and like music producers and give them Suno and then do a research problem on how they were using the thing does not work very well if they are just frustrated in typing that thing and then it's like a one shot that you're evaluating. But if you rather like break it into their workflow to say you will get snare sounds or kick drum sounds from this AI tool. And it can be both Suno and others. So I can share there are many other tools now being built that are not just Suno, that are at a sample level, not making the whole song. But these are my approaches, is at the tangible interface level to use the existing Suno, and other is to get a workflow and break down the evaluation into steps, exactly like you pointed out. Maybe there are more ideas too, but those are where I would start.
Cool. Yeah, that's actually nice. Uh, any more questions you guys want? Okay, final question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Last but one.
Yeah, so it's a bit, I mean, personal question. Like you did a bachelor's in electronics and communication, right? Is it? Like
Yeah.
so you were also in music. So at what point you decided that you have to do music tech only? Was it very hard? Like was it a hard decision to take when you were a bachelor student because it was not popular field at that time? I think so.
Yes, and in
Yeah.
fact,
So
even now, I think there's not that many music technology opportunities in graduate school in India, right? Like you all are lucky, I think.
exactly. No, as well as what guidelines do you suggest some bachelors or PG students who wanted to pursue music tech as a career? Or what are the opportunities after doing? I mean, masters or PhD they will be having?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I am very, this question is very personal to me. I think I showed pictures right in the beginning of this community, music tech community India. Uh, I think there are many other people in the same boat, both in the boat of like, hey, should we study this? It seems like a crazy thing to study. What will we do after we study this? So you will find many other students that are actually doing master's, PhD, both in India and outside India, that can share with you like, oh, here are like new programs and here's where we went and here's the experience we had, because it's different depending on which country you go to and what jobs you can get. There are many music companies. There are companies from like speakers, 3D audio, interface, and Apple, Google, Facebook, of course, all work on research for sound, Bose, Dolby, to like like synthesizer makers, plugin makers, but cochlear implants, spatial audio. This like audio as a means to study is a great specialization to have, I think. But I'm a little biased, as you can tell from I've always been doing this thing. So I think there are new startups and things popping up in India. I really recommend like joining some of these events, like this music tech community. You all have already started it, but we have like a Discord of music tech community that is not specific to any location. And maybe I can share that later. But these are very particular questions that depend on every single person and their goals. And I'll be happy to chat more about this with you as well, if you are thinking about pursuing it or not. Like reach out. Here's my email and other socials.
Yeah, the final question.
So,
Yes.
hello, Manaswi. This is
Oops. Oh,
Saubhagya.
I'll go back here.
I'm a
Yeah.
Yeah, I am
Yes.
a
Go on,
student
Sobhagya.
at IIT Kanpur only. Uh, I we all see like listening to music and as an experience for people who like music. So, but building music can also be said called an experience because it involves like creativity as well as a physical experience of interacting with whichever instrument you're working with. So, in terms of AI tools with music, how do you go about combining the physical experience along with that AI sound generation? How do you think that these two things can be combined in future through like new NIME instruments?
Yeah, I'm very excited for the instruments to actually be built, because I think right now there is not that many experiences that are very satisfying with AI for creativity in general. A creative person can, of course, find amazing art in in any tool or in anything around them. So we do see good examples of it. But if as a tool builder or as a design student, if you are thinking about building them, we have not yet built them. I'm very excited to build them as well. Like you said, it's not something that will be solved. It's not like here's the most optimized, perfect musical instrument for AI. I think very similar to all of the previous instruments that we have looked at. A string instrument is very different from a button instrument, is very different from a screen instrument. And I can imagine AI, uh, the ideas of the mathematics of AI being in all kinds of instruments. So I encourage like all of you to like build instruments. You also mentioned NIME, the new interfaces for musical expression, as a conference. Just so many new AI instruments that are being every year. This year's NIME proceedings just came out. It's so exciting to see what people have built. And it does not seem like uh, there is one correct answer, but you're right. That is the answer we all want. Like instruments that actually are fun and embodied and allow you to explore and experience music.
Yeah,
I have a
thank
few
you.
that I'm building, but I encourage you to build yours as well.
Yeah, this time we also submitted an instrument for NIME.
Oh, amazing. Another one is this Gutman instrument design competition. If you're familiar
Yeah,
with that, happens at Georgia Tech. That's also a
Georgia
good
Tech.
one
Yeah,
to submit to.
yeah. Nice, cool. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, everybody who's in the room and
Thank
those who
you.
were in the room. Thank you for coming, and feel free to reach out. And I'm very excited for Music Tech Club.
Yep. Just a minute. Yeah, cool. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Nice. That is a group selfie. Cool. Thank you, Manaswi. Thank you once again for, first of all, agreeing to this talk. Amidst your all busy schedule, I have been following your posts. You are flying here and there, several places, doing performance. But we would actually love to invite you in person. That's what I wanted to do, so that we can have a live performance here, have a 2-day workshop, and then we can build something together. Yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward.
That sounds like an amazing idea to me. I really want to do that.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
Manaswi. Yeah.